I am Kelly Rose Magnuson with Kelly Rose Productions, and today I'll be interviewing my aunt, Tara Bassett. She's a 502 live streamer. Now, can you explain to us what a 502 live streamer is?
Absolutely, Kelly Rose. I would be happy to do that. So my area code is 502, which is Louisville, Kentucky, the epicenter of civil rights protesting across the country, and the home of Breonna Taylor, whose name is being called out across the world. So 2 days after George Floyd's death, protests erupted everywhere. And one of the major places that they blew up was right here in Louisville, where I have lived for nearly 40 years working in media. So I went out to explore the damage after the 2 nights of riotous unrest, and didn't realize that the damage was really to the people and not to the buildings. And I've been live casting or live streaming for about 7 or 8 years, doing my own show on Facebook and doing a lot of current events and just events that happen throughout the city, nonprofit types stuff. And I went out looking for what I could see. And that day I knew that I was going to be live streaming what was happening with the protests. And I met a group, a total of 7 of us. We hashtagged 502 live streamers, and we've been together for 87 days now, protesting in Louisville, Kentucky, covering protests all over the area.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what is the main thing that people are fighting about? What are they protesting? What's going on?
Well, obviously civil rights, has been an ongoing battle for hundreds of years, and we've never really reached any kind of acceptable conclusion because obviously the way people are treated is very, very dependent upon the color of their skin. And so the major issue that is at stake at this moment is that the protesters here in Louisville, Kentucky, and those who join the cry across the world, including NBA players, women's basketball players, lots of college sports, baseball players, you name it, want to fire, arrest, and charge the police officers that are responsible for the death of Breonna Taylor. So that is the crux of the matter. In the entirety, the larger picture is to stop the killing of Black people by a militarized and systemically racist police force that has become the norm in our country as opposed to the exception. So that's what those protesters you see holding signs on the corners, marching through downtowns, getting ready to march on Washington, D.C. next weekend, getting ready to protest the Kentucky Derby the weekend after that, are all trying to get the most important message across, which is fire, arrest, and charge the police officers responsible for the death of Breonna Taylor.
And so who are the groups of people that are gathered besides the protesters?
You got your basic conflict is between protesters and police. So Louisville Metro Police Department and the local protesters and people who come to visit and support from other cities are in a constant state of tension. We do not have a situation like Portland or Minneapolis or other major cities. Atlanta saw some pretty bad stuff that happened as well. We had 2 nights of very serious unrest, 2 nights where damage was done to a wide swath of downtown, buildings were damaged, stores were looted, and there was a lot of destruction in the wake of the first 2 nights when police and protesters clashed. Lots of tear gas was used, rubber bullets, pepper balls, fires burned in the streets. It was devastating. But I'll tell you, on Saturday morning, the citizens of Louisville got together and brought their brooms and buckets and garbage bags and paint remover and did a tremendous job cleaning up that area of the business district that was damaged. And, we had a lot of opportunistic looters who kind of rode on the coattails of the protesters. And then we had a number of outside agitators who also were involved in what was termed the riot. But up to that point, there had been a simmering tension that exploded that night. And since that time, we've had isolated isolated incidents of conflict between police and protesters, but there has been absolutely nothing widespread. Downtown has a lot of boarding up because the Attorney General of the state of Kentucky, the Commonwealth of Kentucky, now has the case, and they have to make the decision whether to indict these officers. And they are concerned that if an adverse decision comes down, there will be another significant reaction that could cause more damage to downtown. So thanks to COVID closing a lot of cities down in March and protests following on the heels of it at the beginning of June, downtown Louisville is fairly quiet, fairly quiet.
Can you tell me a little bit about the event that you went to today? I got to see a little bit of the live video of it.
Yeah, that was fun. Actually, Until Freedom, which is a national group that has a tremendous amount of expertise in very large-scale protest work. Actually, they organized the Women's March in 2016 after the election of our current president. And they have a tremendous amount of experience in mobilizing and organizing and bringing together a bunch of disparate groups of people to achieve a single goal. So Until Freedom made a decision just last week to move to Louisville, move their headquarters to Louisville. So the 4 co-founders and support staff came in, and they have been just doing an amazing thing. And one of the events that they decided that they were going to do was BriannaCon. So like all the Comic-Cons and all the other organizations that hold conventions, they are having BriannaCon this week. And yesterday started out with a huge food distribution of over 2,000 boxes of fresh produce to citizens all around the west end of Louisville, which is primarily African American and underserved, and a food desert. That was also done last weekend. Today there was a Barbecue named for Brianna, and there was a lot of music and dance and very powerful and impactful speeches. A lot of family time, very, very well organized and well done at Shawnee Park, which is a beautiful park on the riverbanks of the Ohio. So that's what you saw a little bit of when you saw some of my 502 live streamers with me in the shot, and it was really a lot of fun. I'm tired tonight. I came home after that, it's been pretty hot here, so I'm actually sitting in my room getting ready to go to sleep because we've got some big days ahead with BriannaCon continuing.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. I just have one more question for you.
Sure.
What are your personal views on these issues at hand?
Well, my personal views don't really matter because I'm a journalist, and I report what I see, and I do it as factually and in as unbiased a manner as I possibly can. We all have personal viewpoints. We all have personal thoughts. I have been trained by the best in news directors who taught us a long time ago, before one of the networks took over, the saying is, we report, you decide. And it's up to each individual to take the facts that are presented and make up their own minds about what's happening outside. So I do my best to hold to those journalistic ethics, to have integrity in the way that I present things, and whatever my personal feelings are, I really put them on the back burner and report what's going on in front of me. And we're having quite a bit of activity in Louisville right now. There are areas I never thought at 60 I'd be running around with body armor and a gun on my hip, but that's the way it is. Kentucky's an open carry state and requires no licensing whatsoever. So every grandmother and every grandchild is armed in this state. And it's quite an odd and sort of surreal post-apocalyptic life that we're living. We're living a summer intensive, but I tell you, the learning curve for me this summer of Brianna has been quite profound. And you go into an immersion class to learn a foreign language. I've been in an immersion class to learn about racism, and recognizing the implicit bias in each of us from someone who never considered themselves to be racist has been a great growth experience. And despite the pain and despite the sadness, and despite the stress and the tension of the things that happen, I have a great family that I've become so very fond of in the folks that I interview. And even learning about the militias, people who are boogaloo and 3 percenters and patriots and proud sons, and all of these different organizations that are generally lumped under counter protesters. You learn a lot, to see the police from a completely different perspective than I ever have in 37 years in media. Completely different perspective than I've ever been exposed to. So it has truly been a growing experience for me, and something that I would encourage everyone to take a look at. Pick up some books. Um, hey, here's a good one. Somebody just gave me this one. Like it.
Oh, wow.
Not so much on white fragility, but this one's a really good one. And open your ears and shut your mouth and maybe sit down and listen. You might learn and you might be amazed, and don't feel like you always have to be right. Let go of some of the things that you've held on to for so long, so tightly, and give consideration to the fact that somebody else might have something to say that will challenge those beliefs. And you might find out that there's some things that you might want to change about yourself.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it, and we really appreciate you.
Good to see you, Rosebud.
Love you.
Love you too.
Bye.